Hello citizens, this is Rahat from Butfix and welcome to my game review show, Game Talk. Today I'm going to talk about Thymesia. It's the first game by a small Taiwanese studio comprising only 7 people. Genre-wise, it can be called a Soulsborne action RPG, meaning it borrows elements from Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
You think you could steal from us and just walk away?
The costume and getup of the main character, the first boss, and some areas take obvious inspiration from Bloodborne. On the other hand, the overall atmosphere and level design are inspired by Dark Souls. Therefore, it has medieval castle, plague-infested village, blood-soaked dark dungeon, stinky, poisony, swampy area aka discount blight town, etc.
For all our sakes, I hope you are wrong.
The game mainly has 3 distinct locations where you'll find one long level and a few smaller side levels. These side levels usually take place in locked or otherwise inaccessible areas of the main levels. If you played Neo, you'd be very familiar with this game's handling of side levels. The main levels usually have 1 or 2 mini bosses and 1 proper boss. These bosses would feel very familiar to anyone who's played a Soulsborne game before. They don't offer anything new, design or mechanism-wise.
Wait, that's not good news at all.
The game actually offers very little innovation in terms of level design as well. There's no surprise or interesting twist in any of these levels. That is not to say they're badly designed, it's just that even to the most casual players, I doubt any of these levels would seem new or innovative.
You've been here before.
Although honorable mention goes to this blood-flooded library level. It's pretty cool.
Blood is thicker than water.
Just like bonfires from Dark Souls, this one has magical chairs throughout the levels which you can use as checkpoints to level up your guy, set your magical weapon, equip or upgrade your health potions, etc. The levels involve the usual Souls affair in that you have to kill a bunch of enemies, get a few keys and items, and open locked doors to create shortcuts to those magical chairs.
Fresh experience.
As a game made by a small team of only 7 people, the game's graphics is quite impressive. But the lack of budget is mainly visible in the game's storytelling. Keeping up with most Souls-likes, this one tries to tell its story in vague, cryptic ways which I couldn't care less about. And to be honest, the developers don't seem to care much either. Apart from a few short cutscenes here and there, the game uses a few PowerPoint slideshows made with pictures and texts, and more texts contained inside notes that you can find in the levels.
I was elected to lead, not to read.
Again, perhaps due to the lack of a budget, the developers apparently didn't hire any voice actors either, which is why none of the NPC conversations or those slideshows feature any voice work. Even the bosses just make minimal grunt noise. This gives the game a sort of unintentional retro vibe in a somewhat unpalatable way.
Pity.
If you're thinking never to touch the game because of all the moaning and complaining I've been doing so far, I'd ask you to watch the rest of the video first, because the game does have some merit that might make it worth your time. But before I talk about that, let me quickly tell you about the sponsor of this video, Factor. Get fresh, ready-made meals delivered to your doorstep when you sign up with Factor. Factor's chef-created meals are fresh, never frozen, and ready to eat in 2 minutes. Factor even offers meals for those looking to follow keto, low-calorie, vegan, or vegetarian lifestyle. Their meal plans offer variety with a rotating weekly menu of 27+ meal options and 33+ add-ons. Use my custom link in the description or go to go.factor75.com and use code FACTORSE33279 for 50% off your first box. Now back to Thymesia. The game's primary focus is the combat, and the developers smartly invested most of their energy on developing a satisfying combat system, which they mostly accomplished. The combat system is pretty heavily inspired by Sekiro. Just like Sekiro's deflection system, which allow you to not only deflect the enemy's sword strikes, but also cock attacks, dog attacks, and pretty much any attack, Thymesia 2 not only has flashier, faster attacks, but also a Sekiro-like deflection system.
No, what you must be
chewing on some local weed or something.
Although deflection plays a vital role in Sekiro's combat system, in Thymesia, deflection is merely just another defensive tool in your arsenal. In fact, in my first playthrough of the game, I rarely, if ever, used deflection. And maybe that made combat slightly harder for me, but I'd say it didn't have much of an impact in my overall experience.
No problem.
Though most attacks in Thymesia can be deflected, there are these special attacks that come right after a green signal that can be deflected normally. To deal with these attacks, you need to throw these feathers at the enemy at the right time. If you can time it right, these feathers would stun the enemy temporarily and give you enough time to string together a bunch of strikes at them.
Whoop his butt!
Just like how Sekiro's enemies get a glowing red orb after you fill up their posture bar, allowing you to finish them up, Thymesia 2 lets you pull off show-offy finishing moves after you empty most of the higher tier enemies' health bars. Speaking of health bars, one interesting feature of the game is that every enemy has 2 layers of health. The first, white layer, can be damaged by attacking normally with your saber, which exposes the second, green layer, that can be damaged by the secondary claw attack.
Sounds nice.
Another fun tool you have is Plague Weapon. It's sort of a magical weapon that you can unlock different flavors of throughout the game and upgrade them as you go along. If you hold the claw attack button for a short period and then let it loose, you snatch out an ethereal version of the enemy's weapon in your Plague Weapon slot, which you can use as a powerful consumable attack. Once you unlock a Plague Weapon, you can then equip it in your reusable Plague Weapon slot and use it multiple times before resting at a magical chair and replenishing the weapon slot. You can, of course, find resources throughout your journey to upgrade these weapons.
Hell, that's just pure genius.
A major criticism I have of the game is that it has a severe lack of enemy variety. Apart from only 1 or 2 supernatural creatures, all the other enemies are your regular human and humanoid soldier types, who, no matter how fun to fight, do get boring real fast. And yes, the fact that they are fun to fight and that the game is pretty short, around 7 to 9 hours, are what make the lack of enemy variety rather tolerable.
You see, that's where you're wrong.
Soulsborne games usually have some hidden mechanisms, secret bosses, hidden shortcuts, weapons or items, and an overall sense of mystery and wonder, which I didn't really find here. I probably shouldn't complain about it given the developer team's small size and the game's pretty affordable price, but purely as a consumer, I must say I was kind of missing those features in a game like this. This game is basically a linear affair with fun fighting segments and straightforward progression, with little to no story. Overall, for the fast-paced, action-packed experience alone, I will recommend Thymesia to most people. If you like this video, please subscribe to Buttfix, follow me on my fake profile on Facebook, and support the channel through Patreon. Links are in the description.